Hello, that's me again. Today is September 3. It is Tuesday, I believe. And let's start with some interesting things which are happening all around the world. And let me tell you, man, I mean, this is unbelievable. Their whole thing, it accelerates so fast. I don't even know how to and where to start. Pardon me. But as you can see yourself, Mr. Putin today wrapped up his state visit to Mongolia. And you see, Putin arrives in Mongolia in defiance of International Criminal Court arrest warrant. The Russian president is making a state visit to a country that is heavily dependent on Moscow for oil. As you can see yourself, in the photo, Mr. Putin arrives by his other plane. It's Tu-214. And these people with the guns standing there, you know, they're gonna arrest him. Right, they are there to arrest Mr. Putin, and as you can see yourself, he was arrested and delivered to the palace in Ulaanbaatar, you know, so it's just, yeah, it's ridiculous. So, and this whole thing with the International Criminal Court and warrant shows you the complete impotence of the already, you know, what used to be premium, you know, Western institutions and things of this nature. Yeah, International Criminal Court has no jurisdiction over anything. It just issues edicts, you know. So, and in this particular case, Mongolia doesn't care. And Mongolia does not merely depend on oil, as New York Times wants to portray it. In Russia, Mongolia is a strategic, you know, way, so to speak, to China. And again, what they do not know in New York Times, because they are, you know, ignorant nincompoops who never studied anything of value, Mongols made a tremendous sacrifice for Red Army and Soviet Union during World War II, Great Patriotic War. Not only Red Army actually saved Mongols from what would have been their slavery to Japanese imperialism. That is why Mr. Putin went there to celebrate the anniversary of the Battle of the Khalkhin Gol. No, it's not just that. But throughout the Great Patriotic War, Mongols sacrificed tremendously, not only by joining the Red Army fighting, but huge volumes of their food, horses, and most importantly, very warm clothes have been delivered by Mongolians for the Red Army. Russians value it tremendously, and there was indeed almost, you know, brotherly relations between two nations. So there you go. How strange, huh? But this is not just it. So, and to kind of, you know, make it a little bit of how to put it, entertaining. So we have now the Reuters. And they say, well, it's Reuters, okay? And U.S. close to agreeing on long-range missiles for Ukraine delivery to take months. They are talking about, as you can see yourself today, about the JASM, joint attack, whatever, missile. It has have range to hit targets inside Russia. Wow, so as if they didn't do this before. But the thing about this JASM thing is the fact that its second version has the range of up to 900 kilometers. This is dangerous. So, and obviously, as a threat, Russians are doing what they need to do. They will be shooting down those F-16s, to which they will try to, as they say, Pentagon, trying to integrate JASMs on Soviet-era Ukrainian jets. The hunt for those jets is constant. They are being obliterated all the time. And F-16s, yeah, the comedy, the circus with this shutdown F-16 continues, and how to put it politely, I don't know, it's just ridiculous. It's becoming so pathetic that Ukrainians say they shot it with the Patriot PAC-3. Pentagon denies it, so it, rumor has it already, kind of confirmed it was a Su-57, but yeah, they can continue to do whatever they're trying to do in Washington, trying to, you know, make Russians scared, which is of course too late anyway, and Russians never were fearing the might of Washington. They were fearing its stupidity, and we're living through this moment right now, right this very moment. So, but on the fronts, of different fronts of this whole thing, we are beginning to see some interesting things. And what can I say? This morning, this is one of the buildings of the Poltava, what is called the, the communications school. The Mr. Iskander visited it today in Poltava, and during the actually gathering of the personnel of the armed forces of Ukraine. And this is just a part of the buildings. You can see them, from all kinds of angles. So different estimates, hundreds of killed and wounded. And then, of course, there was another attack in Kharkov on the facility which housed up to 60 foreign mercenaries. Well, many advisors from Sweden. So they are gone to Valhalla, I guess, unless Valhalla accept this kind of people. But still, so there is a lot of what is happening there in this respect. And to understand what is turning into this whole Kursk disaster, essentially catastrophe. Let's start with the imbeciles from German media. There are no normal people working in German media, you have to understand. They're either corrupt, blackmailed, or they're just imbeciles like Mr. Ryobke. Mr. Ryobke is a complete, well, he has the, jihad Ryobke reputation and the moniker which was given to him, but I want to show you something about him when even Mr. Ryobke cannot deny anymore. And Ryobke, how to put it politely, yeah, here it is. Mr. Ryobke suddenly comes up in Bild, or 3 days ago, with this incredible piece of thing. Kursk occupied, Donetsk gone. First, the title is complete baloney. Kursk is fine and never was occupied. What they tried to occupy was about 100 square kilometers, which now have been completely scattered, and it is now mopping up. And if you read the news ticker, you will see yourself. There are 22 of these killed, 15 have surrendered, and I will explain to you also what is happening there. But look at this. Mr. Ryobke comes up with an incredible, absolutely incredible title. I guess this is 1984, having two contradictory thoughts in mind simultaneously. Is Ukraine losing because it is winning in Russia? I mean, it's Ryobke, okay? The guy is an imbecile. He was standing. And so, as a result, we have this thing. So, but Ryobke suddenly kind of gets back into the real world. And he said, and while Ukrainian army was only able to take control of a single Russian small town, 6,000 inhabitants with Sudzha, which still lie. They do not have the control of the whole Sudzha. They have not control by sit in the buildings in the primarily western part of Sudzha. Eastern part of Sudzha is under Russian control. So, and they now begin to, and again, you have to understand, these people do not understand military. They don't understand strategy, let alone they will not understand operations. But they think that they understand operations, and they begin to do what everybody doing while thinking that Mr. Patton, General Patton was great because he moved fast. The fact that he was moving against practically non-existent forces of Wehrmacht there, they do not understand this. And so, what they say that, well, yeah, instead of the Sudzha Russians, Russians already conquered 5 Ukrainian towns with a total of more than 53,000 inhabitants. If they count this type of the basically operational coefficients, I have news for them. This is not how it counts. You definitely have a serious, you have those things which you have to count, the square mileage and the depth of the extent of the advancement and how many towns and villages you liberated, but they don't even provide proper numbers. I will give you proper numbers in a minute. But here they are. Since Thursday, the strategically important city of Pokrovsk, with its 65,000 inhabitants, has also been forcibly evacuated because Russian troops are only 8 kilometers away. No, even then they were not in 8 kilometers away. They were in less than 4, and they already were entering the suburbs. And then, of course, Ukraine is paying a high price for the successes at Kursk and Donbass. What kind of success we are talking about? They killed more than around 9,000 killed there. I mean, so. And then he returns to military expert Nicolang, 49, draws a sobering interim balance of the risk operation. So let's take a look who Nicolang is. And I love to go to the backgrounds of those people. Here's Nicolang. And I will explain to you why his view is BS. Look at this. Nico Lang, author. Nico Lang is the non-resident senior fellow of the Transatlantic Defense and Security Program at the Center for European Policy Analysis. Bunch of the nincompoops with zero understanding of anything, which of course, abuse sinecures. However, look at what they say. Nico is also a senior fellow at the Munich Security Conference in Berlin and Munich. He teaches as the chair of military history, okay, that's fine, at the University of Potsdam and the Hertie whatever School of Governance. His research topics are the Russian war against Ukraine, new technologies in security and defense, and cybersecurity. Lang served as the chief of staff at the German Ministry of Defense from 2019 to 2022. And here comes this very interesting thinking. Chief of staff of what in German Ministry of Defense? And let me show you what we are talking about. He was chief of staff of this chick. And this chick, Annegret Kramp-Karrenbauer, who contributed mightily to already humiliated enough remnants of the Bundeswehr, he was chief of staff of her campaign, and this lady, who has a degree in political science, and he himself, this Nico Lang, has degree in political science. So these guys are becoming now what? Military experts. They won't understand the first thing about operation. You need to have a very serious military background to understand it. But here we are. And that what brings us to this whole situation, why they are absolutely, this is so ridiculous when those people still try to put a positive spin. Here is the demonstration, just demonstration. This is the story from one of the platoons which surrendered. And look at this. This is yesterday. Oh, actually, no, it's today. This is from RIA News. The armed forces of Ukraine forgot an entire unit in the Kursk region, the prisoner said. Prisoner of war Furdolenko, the armed forces of Ukraine forgot an entire unit in the Kursk village of Kortneva. And what he says, that platoon commanded by Fedorenko was tasked with occupying a forest belt. Mind you, forest belt, this is how they fight, so to speak. They hide in the buildings, which is understandable. This is what you do when you try to get on the defensive. But primarily they were hiding, all of them, in the forests. But servicemen of the 225th Brigade of the Armed Forces of Ukraine were already there. After that, he was sent to rotate soldiers in the village of Koreniva. They were brought there in an armored vehicle, Kozak. And what do we have there? So here's the story. In the evening, we were not changed. Our walkie-talkie ran out. On the second day, it sat down meaning it's completely run out of juice because it's machine translation. The second day, we were not changed either. I realized from the negotiations, talking, that we were lost. They did not know where to look for us, the agency interlocutor said. On the third day, the village began to be occupied by Russian fighters. Once surrounded and negotiated, the platoon of the Armed Forces of Ukraine decided to surrender. And so they did. And this story repeats now itself all over in the so-called Kursk incursion, which is, many people do not understand. There is no literally front line there. You're looking at this polka dot where Russian forces and constantly hunt down, you can call it safari, all those now dispersed and not connected, whatever the elements of this force which entered Kursk on the 6th of August, and they mob them up. They sometimes take them as prisoners of war when they surrender, and yeah, their number is horrendous in the Kursk alone. And so let's start looking at what do we have in terms of losses for today. And in terms of losses for today, we see, well, it's constantly above 2200s every day. And tanks and APCs, 6, armored vehicles, 19, artillery and mortars, 33, all over the front line. And since this whole thing was planned in Pentagon and London, as you understand, they do not understand how reserves work there in Pentagon. They do not understand how they are rotated and how they are managed. And as a result, we finally begin to see the enlargement of those arrows. Remember, everybody were talking about wind, and I was mistaken. I'm not saying that I knew everything. I don't know everything at all. I mean, the fact is, I can go only what I know from the open sources, and as a result, I do make mistakes. But we, all of us, we're talking about, yeah, this possible large, big arrows of Russian offensives. Well, Kursk precipitated the enlargement of those arrows. Let's take a look at those arrows from the September 1st. And we start with the Ugledar map. Ugledar, well, you see this? Look at the scale. We'll look now at the spread, if you put together, at about, well, 30 kilometers, maybe, probably more. And as you can see yourself, Ugledar is being absolutely surrounded. Well, Ugledar may not necessarily be that important, but we can take a look at other places. And of course, in Pokrovsk area, my gosh, you can see this. You see this on the scale now? They're sounding those arrows. And look at this. Russians do not go directly in Pokrovsk yet. They are fighting on the outskirts. But look at this. You have the expansion of this bulge, as you can see yourself, southernmost movement, and this is where it really matters, and this is what really creates this very important situation. Look at this. This is Ugledar-Selidova thing. You see this? You can see yourself Ugledar on the below, and you can see yourself that Russians go to the Selidova, and this bulge, which is appearing there, is called the Nevelskaya bulge. As you can see yourself, it is around, I would say, 10-15 kilometers. And we go now to our friend Marat Khairulin, who shows you what is this all about. This is now from the, actually, yesterday. You see this? And you see the blue arrow going out of this thingy? Well, guess what? They are trying to escape, but if you take a look at the scale, as you can see yourself, 4-kilometer scale, the, so to speak, throat of this thing, bottleneck, is about 10 kilometers wide, and as you can see yourself, Russians are rushing to make sure that most of those troops are killed. And as you can see yourself, Russians already in Selidova. This is critical. Selidova not only a horrendously important hub, but practically the industrial facility there. It also contains the mine which produces, the only mine which produces the coke required for the metallurgy. And guess what? Once this mine is taken, well, good luck for Ukraine to sustain what it's already dwindling metallurgy, the last vestiges of remaining industrial things which it has now. So as you can see yourself, this map, and then of course we're going to Terezk. As you can see yourself, this is well, it's inside Terezk, and the terracons, which are those big heaps of the material which accumulate and create a very important vantage points, and you can actually control the area around you. You can see yourself that the Russians already in there. And so the other thing, which is returning back to Ugledar, this is how Ugledar looks for now. And yes, we're looking at the whole front collapsing. And what is most importantly, which many people still do not understand, the troops, which those motivated troops, which have been now slaughtered in Kursk, are actually, when they talk motivated and Nazi, and especially a lot of those volunteers, so to speak, from NATO, especially English speaking, they were not really that great troops in terms of fighting, because primarily they were known as being motivated to shoot into the backs of the retreating troops of Ukraine. They were never really present, overly present on that, real line of the combat contact. And when you look at those maps, you can see yourself that what they did, they essentially, those barrier troops, They sent them in Kursk and they all got killed. And now we have the situation, other, so to speak, arrivals of those Mr. Iskanders and Mr. Tornado, you know, this nasty little thing which fly with a range of 80 kilometers, and it actually can disperse self-guiding munitions. So, and we look at today some horrendous losses in personnel all over Ukraine, and of course, if you take a look at the videos in Kiev, my God, some things are detonating still there. So, and this will continue, and that is what is important. My dear friend Larry Johnson also points out, which is, he absolutely correctly states why the front is collapsing, and it is collapsing, and even this nincompoops from neocons from, as you can see yourself there, from the screenshot there, they said that friendly fire leads to injuries and deaths of Ukrainian soldiers. And Larry explains, you can go and read this wonderful piece, that why the lack of training is Ukraine's Achilles heel. To explain the dire plight confronting Ukraine, I will plagiarize James Carville's slogan from Clinton's 1992 presidential round. It is their training stupid. And he is absolutely correct, because what they have now primarily is cannon fodder. And fact is, there is a very important dynamics in the whole armed forces of Ukraine. They were starting with those brigades, which were heavy armor brigades. Then they became simply armor brigades, then they became motor rifle brigades, same formations, and then they became the light brigades, and guess what, now they're becoming motor rifle battalions. And this is dynamics which is not reported by all those, you know, American military, you know, specialists from the Institute of the Study of War, by all those generals. Ask Mr. Ben Hodges, what does it mean? What does this dynamics means when most of your brigades are reduced to battalion size, and from being armor brigades, heavy armor brigades, they suddenly become light brigades and light battalions. And the answer isn't there. It's a basic military common sense, because the number, and as I already stated, of the losses is horrendous. And that brings us to other thing, which is Daniel Davis also speaks about it. Ukrainians flee, Russia storms Pokrovsk. Daniel Davis is a cadre American military officer. He was in Iraq, he was in Afghanistan, but he is definitely, you know, has a degree of understanding of the modern combat as it fought, and he delivers some pretty decent, you know, ideas, and he talks about it. Anybody who has any degree of military literacy, let alone professionalism, they talk about it. So, and, you know, unless somebody who is totally in denial, they continue to, you know, reside in this denial. But I want to kind of give you on the sort of, well, not lighter, away from, how to put it, away from the this whole military things, because I understand people can take only so much of military without me getting into the particulars like that. But while I'm still remember this, as I already stated, so these are the scaling of the conflict, and especially when you take a look as how you scale it, and how you calculate the probabilities and parameters of the technological advantage. And so, as you can see yourself, I will just merely give you this representation of the scale, which is M of those operations. M 0.5 is the scale of the coin, and then they grow in there. And what now Russia fights in a special military operation, it is M3. And the table tells you, if you, in order for you to have the probability of the victory in the over the enemy, which is P, probability X, we go down this table, and at the 0.9, as you can see yourself, you give the in the scale of 3, you need to have about 2.1 to 1 advantage of the forces. But here is the funny thing. Apart from Russians having now advantage, although it's not 2.1, but still, what Russians have is actually what's called parameter beta of the combat advantage. It's overwhelming. It's overwhelming, and this actually changes the scaling of the operations, and this can be calculated only through the correlation of forces and means and combat effectiveness. And now we're looking at, when we look not only at the scale or correlation of forces, we're looking at the combat effectiveness of Russian formations and units. It's overwhelming. It's the order of magnitude over whatever NATO can throw at Russians. And this is also part of it, which is, Larry spoke about training of the armed forces of Ukraine. This is the critical thing. And as I already spoke about this in the last video, they're reporting that primarily they either sit or hide into those bunkers. Very few of them really fight. And when they try to surrender, they've been shot in the back. So basically now it is safari along the whole front. And soon people will forget about Kursk because, again, Sumy, oh my gosh, you can take a look at Sumy and all those concentration of those so-called reserves which have been wiped out in the last 48 hours. It's a grim picture, guys, for the armed forces of Ukraine and NATO. They miscalculated, as always. They miscalculated strategically and operationally. As I already stated, they are not even in the same league with Russian general staff. It is just cold, hard fact, no matter how they try. And to wrap it up on the civilian, more or less, on the civilian, so to speak, part of the issue, we have none other, the legend. The legend. I was on his concert recently at Tacoma Dome. It's I mean, overwhelming experience. The genius behind, together with Sid Barrett, behind the Pink Floyd. Well, I'm gonna meet here the name of David Gilmour. It's a whole other new story. Albeit genius musician in his own right. But here it is, Mr. Roger Waters, on yesterday. He talks to RT and he says Russia won World War II, not the West. And the Pink Floyd co-founder has recognized the USSR roles in defeating Adolf Hitler. I'm talking to the good people of Russia. We never really yet thanked them for beating the Germans in World War II at the cost of 22 million dead, Waters said. We thank you, people of Russia, for that huge sacrifice that you made. And no, we didn't win the war on the day. You won the war on the Eastern Front. Until that is being taught in the Sandhurst, in all those high colleges and West Point in the West, they will learn absolutely nothing. But Roger Waters understands that. And fact is, today, as Mr. Antonov stated, and actually Mr. Ryabkov, Mr. Antonov being the ambassador, Russian ambassador to Washington, but also Mr. Lavrov even, and apart from Ryabkov, says this. And Mr. Lavrov doesn't need any introduction. And he says that essentially what we are witnessing, that United States and 50 European nations are now fighting Russia under the Nazi flags, and they do. Pentagon supports Nazi regime. They support, together with CIA and MI6, Nazis in Ukraine. And the evidence is now so overwhelming. And, well, what can I say? The reason they support them, because they never really hated them that much to start with. And I can tell you immediately that is why America runs on the history of the World War II, written by Wehrmacht generals and officers. So well, those British, but again, British are not even a factor in the military affairs of the 21st century. And if to demonstrate to you of what we've been talking about all along, and it's, you know, at first nothing and then everything at once, you know. So we are seeing there, when we talk about the industrialization of main, so to speak, economy of Europe, here's Germany and here's Bloomberg. It's yesterday. Volkswagen weighs first ever Germany plant closures to cut cost. German automaker heads for showdown with unions over plans. Well, electric vehicles, it's all garbage. Obviously, it's a fad, the same as was dot-com bubbles. But the point is, not only Germany loses fast all of its metallurgical industry and chemical industry. Now it's going to be losing the last thing it's have been known for, which is, of course, automotive industry. What's left? I can tell you what's left in Germany. What's left in Germany is Siemens. And for now, they're kind of sticking around. But Germany will not continue like this because it's impossible. And now I want to pour some cold water on those people who still believe and like applaud that, oh my God, Germans started to throw out the Scholz government. By electing Alternative for Germany in Thuringia, former GDR territory. Well, it's all fine and dandy. But you have to understand that it's too late for Germany because the relations between Germany and Russia have been utterly destroyed. And Mr. Scholz will transfer the remaining 6, whatever the air defense complexes Germany has left, to Ukraine. They will not make any difference whatsoever. And when you look at this, good God, I mean, we are living through some incredible period of time. And I spoke today with Hroe, who will make the video. He's editing it very soon. And I want to stress again what many people still do not understand. The war which is happening, they call it hybrid or whatever, so it's a stupid name, it was always like that. The war we're dealing with, it's a final battles of the World War II. People have to understand it. If they don't, they will not understand modern geopolitics. These are the final battles of the World War II, because every single modern institution, every single state standing of whatever Western nations, or especially United States, everything has its foundation and root in the World War II. If you do not understand it, you will not understand modern geopolitics. But here we are today. And this is what I wanted to finish it with, And as always, guys, those who like what I do, please subscribe to my channel. And those who can afford, please support me on Patreon or buy me a coffee too. I just bought the new t-shirt. I finally found it. It's called Neat Coffee with the Minion. That's my favorite t-shirt. So don't be surprised if you see me next time in it. So anyhow, this is everything I have to say to you today. And as always, have a nice rest of your week. And I'll talk to you later, guys. Bye-bye.